Howdy, folks. Being that this is the first ever episode of the Gutter Run podcast, we were bound to have some technical errors. So, about midway through this recording, my audio quality does drop pretty noticeably. Hopefully, you can forgive that and kind of work through it. But yeah, thank you very much for tuning in. I appreciate it and enjoy the podcast. Okay, welcome
Recording in
everyone
progress.
to the inaugural episode of the Gutter Run podcast. I am Andrew
Oh,
Paxton. I'll be
I
your
forgot the
host.
name. Yeah, gotta
Yeah,
run.
I'm here with my good friend Daniel Abramovitz, and today we are going
What's
to be
up?
talking about the Alien franchise and mainly our
Yeah,
thoughts on Alien 3, because Daniel is yet to see Romulus.
I have not. Okay, so here I've seen Alien. I've seen Aliens. I honestly don't remember Aliens that much. I was looking it up and I was like, I watched this, and but then I watched Alien 3 and I thought the plot of Alien 3 was going to be Alien Resurrection's plot, because as it had been described to me, I had confused them in my head. I haven't seen Resurrection yet. It seems like the more interesting of the two films
I would
between three and it.
probably, I think I would probably agree with that. It's definitely like I think it's objectively a lower quality movie,
Okay.
and I don't know that it's like if you write down all of the ideas in that film and put them to paper, I think that you could visualize in your head a pretty interesting story that uses some of that like Freudian H.R. Giger like psychosexual stuff. But in
Yeah.
application, it's like somebody failed to make the Matrix. Like it feels like
Uh,
very of that era, you know, and you got a cast of colorful characters that look like a bit like cyberpunk, and
okay.
it's not a particularly
Interesting.
enjoyable experience.
Right. Okay.
Well, I guess before we get into the main topic, I figured we could do news.
Okay.
We could do main topic, then we could talk about like what's in your nightstand, what are you currently reading or watching,
All
or
right.
what do you have interest in discussing or bringing to the table. So,
Cool.
in terms of news, I only have a few things on here. Obviously, this is the first ever episode of what will hopefully be many more, though
Yes.
I'm not betting on it. But
What are you talking
no, dude,
about?
two white dudes in their mid-20s. This is gonna be incredible. That always
Nobody's
works
ever
out.
done this before.
Absolutely
We're
not.
the first people to ever do this.
We're trailblazers, okay?
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
so I guess one of the most significant things that has occurred recently that I thought would be worth talking about is Robert Downey Jr.'s casting as Doctor Doom moving
Yes.
forward in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, because I know that you and
Yes.
I both hold that character in very high reverence,
Hmm.
and I have, I think, a pretty polarizing kind of negative opinion on
Right.
RDJ's Tony Stark, which is not a thing that a lot of people would care to hear.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I guess just like what are your thoughts on that? Do you have anything
What
that
are
kind
my
of
thoughts?
yeah, what
I mean, I'm not an expert on anything, but I would say that my criticism of RDJ's Iron Man is not as scathing as yours, but that's just because I'm not the biggest Marvel Comics fan, so I haven't really read any Iron Man comics. I can't really judge the accuracy of his portrayal or anything. I think for what they went for, I think he did it to the best of his ability, which might just be him playing himself. I'm not really sure. But I think his popularity I think kind of speaks for itself, and that regardless of if he portrayed it accurately to the comics, that he is loved for that role. And I think
yeah.
that is why they brought him back in as Doctor Doom, because the MCU was just going down the toilet. So I feel like
Yeah.
this was just like a we need we need people to watch and we need their money.
It seems
Give
like a
it.
panic button, right? Like it seems
Yeah,
like somebody somewhere was like, look, this has not gone how we wanted for it to.
right.
So, this is who we bring back
Especially
in.
with the King the Conqueror stuff, and
Yeah.
what's that fella's name? I can't think of.
Jonathan Majors.
Yeah, Jonathan Majors and the trouble that he's been through, and that's kind of derailed their whole plan.
It's
So,
strange because you and I had spoken in the past in personal discussion about how easy it would be to slot in Doom as a replacement for King and
correct.
effectively just do those films as they were already planning to do them, that being
Right.
King Dynasty and Secret Wars. And to
And
my knowledge, that seems to be
Yeah,
what's
they took
happening.
our idea and then they completely just pooped on it
Yeah, I
with
guess
Robert Downey
so.
Jr.
With my boy RDJ. Yeah, so I guess as I alluded to earlier, I think that Robert Downey Jr. is a terrific talent. I think he's a very
Absolutely.
strong actor
His
and
role in Oppenheimer, I thought he was amazing in
awesome.
Oppenheimer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally deserving of all the
Yeah.
praise that he got out of that. And I really like him in some of his earlier stuff, the
hmm
Chaplin movie, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. And yeah, like I think that first Iron Man is still like probably top three superhero movies ever.
Yeah, it's a great movie, yeah.
It's
hmm
really, really strong. My issue is that RDJ's inherent charisma and the energy that he brought to the screen was so strong that his character arc as it exists in that first movie is effectively rolled back with
hmm
each successive film that he's in, because
hmm
the point is that he is humbled, he goes through life-changing experiences, he goes through the hero's journey,
Right.
and he comes out on the end of it um a better man and a more capable individual
And
and a more
Iron
compassionate person.
Man.
Yes, an Iron Man. There you go. But and he's a more serious character by the end of that movie as well. It seems,
Yeah.
like he shed a lot of the facade, and then the movie performs so well. And I don't know if this is a Jon Favreau or a Joss Whedon thing, but I feel like definitely by the time we got the first Avengers movie in 2012, he is back to being a wisecracking snob
Yeah,
that just
right.
happens to
Yeah.
wear the Iron Man armor. And I realistically think there are only three MCU movies where Iron Man has like significant character growth that I find interesting, and
hmm
that's the first Iron Man, Civil War, and then probably Endgame. Like,
Yes.
and it's crazy
That
to
was
me
gonna
that
be my list.
yeah, that out of a decade's worth of material, those are the only ones that I find that character to be of interest. And again, I am in the
Mhm.
minority there. People don't feel that same way.
You could never be a minority.
Well, that's true.
No, I'm just
That's
kidding.
true.
I'm just kidding.
We got to keep it progressive. But yeah, so all of this to say, in a very long-winded way,
Mm,
um, people love that character. I thought he got a really
right.
good send-off in Endgame,
Yes.
and it is strange to me that when looking at all of the other options that were apparently thrown around, we saw a Killian Murphy, we saw a Mads Mikkelsen, the dude that played Jamie Lannister in Game of Thrones, like all of these different names that were in contention. And of course, we don't know if they were actually being pursued or not, though I would almost guarantee that Mads Mikkelsen probably was.
Yeah.
They go, well,
Yeah.
actually, we'll just do
Maybe.
RDJ. And I suppose my question to you then is, well, we know it's going to be RDJ. We know he's
hmm
playing Victor Von Doom. That they didn't go, oh, this is variant Tony Stark that becomes Doctor Doom. They
Oh, okay.
go,
So that's been confirmed. I did not know that. Okay.
there the wording of the two directors, the guys that did both Infinity War and Endgame, that is the Russo brothers.
Yes.
They have repeatedly said that this is the Victor Von Doom,
It's
but
not Tony.
it's also been suggested by Matt Shackman, who is currently working on the Fantastic Four feature film, that the version of Doom that will be in Avengers Doomsday and Secret Wars, the one that's played by RDJ,
hmm
will originate in the universe of this new Fantastic Four.
Okay.
So I guess my question is just, if you're going to have, let's assume for a second it's not a Tony Stark variant, okay?
Yeah.
If you're going to have an entirely different character be played by the same actor, then not only do I think that you're losing a tremendous amount of creativity kind of like behind the scenes
Right.
collectively, but what's to stop you from killing off characters and then immediately recasting them in other roles
Right.
from here on out, you know?
You're right. I I don't know. I don't I Their thinking in this is money, 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 money. They just that's all of this reads to me as. I didn't know that they said he was going to be Victor Von Doom. I was kind of thinking that they were going to lean into him being a Tony Stark variant kind of thing. It seems even more perplexing to me that he is like a completely different character entirely. I wonder if
I wouldn't be
I don't
surprised
know.
if they're misconstruing that or like misrepresenting it in a way that makes
Yeah.
it, because my best, like, there's been a comic arc, or I think maybe this has happened a few times, and I wish that I could recall who was writing on this, but
it was once suggested that Tony Stark was not the actual Tony Stark. He had like a brother, and I feel like they gave him a
Uh,
different name. And
hmm,
there was this kind of like almost like battle for the cow type situation, maybe, except with like
interesting.
the mantle of Iron Man. And
Yeah.
I it wouldn't necessarily surprise me if this Victor Von Doom, for instance, like is still born to the Stark family, and then through some
Okay,
strange multiversal type events,
I
he
see.
ends up like an orphaned, individual in Latveria, or something of that nature,
Yeah.
and then he
Okay.
grows or adopts the name Von Doom.
That would
Um,
make a lot more sense and
Definitely.
still make me pissed.
Yeah, still I'm still not super thrilled about it. Doctor Doom's like people on the street know who Doctor Doom
I
is.
know,
You know,
yeah.
like he's
He's
he's one of the
iconic.
most essential and
And he's a
iconic.
rapper.
Yes,
It's
and he is a
incredible.
right. He's terrific. He's so good. All caps when you spell the man name.
That's right.
Yeah, he's terrific, and he's been great for as long as I can recall. So it's odd to me. Also, I don't think that this is a thing that is an issue really elsewhere. Like I haven't seen other media adapt Victor Von Doom and do that. We even have other Fantastic Four movies
Right.
that feature Victor Von Doom as Victor Von Doom is. And yeah, they're not perfect adaptations, but they're, I think, probably now closer
They
than
tried
it is.
something at least.
Exactly.
Like
Yeah. So I
yeah.
don't know. It's not.
I feel like I feel like this is more emblematic of the MCU and Disney's approach to filmmaking is more of like a product than an actual art piece of art.
Definitely.
And not to say I don't want to poop on Robert Downey Jr. because I do think he thinks that he could knock this one out of the park. And I'll give him the benefit of the doubt and say that he could.
Yeah.
But if I were him, I would have said no,
Yeah.
probably.
Yeah. It's almost like yeah, I don't want to make any assumptions about him or his character as an individual, but you drop out to do an Iron Man. Well, sorry, you don't drop out. They kill off your character, but you're
Right.
you're you're aware of this, you're okay with it. You go off
Yeah.
kind of like spectacularly. You have a string of not necessarily great films, but then you do Oppenheimer and you win an Oscar
You
for it.
elevate your status, in my opinion, by
And
doing
then
that.
your next goal, it's almost like he just needed to remind everybody that he was like a tremendous talent, because he
I
then
don't,
just goes,
yeah,
all right,
maybe.
guys, I'm heading back to the MCU now. I'm cool
I
with it.
I wish I knew how those conversations went
Me
and
too.
and how much money he's making from it,
it
you
I
know?
think either Variety or the Hollywood Reporter, I think, suggested that he would be making somewhere in like the like 60 to 70 million range,
Holy
which
cow.
is which is almost double the amount that some like horror features are made for
Right.
nowadays. Yeah, like the entirety of covering the production cost, getting the cast, like building out an entire movie. RDJ is being paid
I
that
know.
plus some
That's
point of
insane.
discussion. DC Comics is launching a new, effectively, like they keep using the terminology. They're like, this is like the equivalent of the Ultimate Universe for Marvel Comics,
Oh,
which
the
it's
what is it
absolute,
called? Yeah, the
absolute,
absolute. Yeah,
yeah.
absolute. Yeah. Right.
So there's three titles that I'm aware of currently, and several more that have been announced. But I guess the three most prominent are your DC Trinity. So you
Hmm.
have Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman. Batman
Right.
is Scott Snyder writing. He also seems to kind of be the creative lead on this whole initiative. Like he's really a proponent of this, and he seems very excited about its future and kind of like
Hmm.
the prospects. But we've also got who's doing, I think Superman is Jason Aaron, who did that terrific run of Thor for Marvel that had like Gore the God Butcher and other
Oh, yes.
characters.
Yes.
Um and honestly, that's the one that I think looks the most exciting at this point in time. Like I will definitely be picking that up. And then Absolute Wonder
Yeah.
Woman will be a Kelly Thompson book. And then I guess just real quick, because I always get frustrated about people not mentioning the artist. So Batman is Scott Snyder, Nick Dragotta. Wonder Woman, Kelly Thompson, and I think that says, I wish my eyesight were better. My
Oh,
bad.
oh
And I
wow.
think that that says
It's blind.
Hayden Sherman. There we go. And then
Okay.
Jason Aaron and Rafa Sandoval. So that's kind of our creative teams there. And these will be launching, I want to say relatively soon, maybe
I
in
think so.
September at least for Batman. Oh no, it looks like perhaps October 9th, I think is what we're
Oh,
getting there. But either way, I mean, it's interesting. I very much enjoyed the Earth One comics. I think you and I have spoken about those in the past.
think
So
so.
it does remain strange to me to think that they have like DC Comics, I think a few times in the past has tried to create an equivalent to either Marvel's, Ultimate Universe or just
Hmm.
a new kind of like standard for their continuity that doesn't have, 70, 80 plus years of material that
Right.
you have to get into.
Yeah.
And it seems like they're just never willing to go all in on one, which I guess is even more fun that this new DC initiative, other than just having an absolute line of comics, the initiative as a whole is called All In. So I really think that they're trying to be transparent and that like, hey, this is it, we're doing it, we have
Yeah.
faith in these books.
Yep.
So I don't know, are you gonna pick up any of these? Do you even read single issue comics anymore?
Um, what was the last single issue comics run I read? Can't remember.
I hope it
I
wasn't
think Three
Doomsday Clock.
Jokers.
Oh, okay, okay,
And I did
yeah.
not even read the third issue of it, so
Well,
I didn't finish
yeah,
because you had given it such a bad review, so I
it
just
did
decided
not, it was not
it didn't.
particularly
I
good.
mean, yeah, the read of the first two issues wasn't even good anyway, so I was like, bump this. I don't care about any of it. But
Yeah.
yeah, Doomsday Clock is probably the last one that I was like really into and
Hmm.
saw all the way through.
So
But
it's been a bit. It's been a bit.
yeah, I the Batman stuff, the artwork looks cool, I think.
Agreed. Yeah.
But some of what I've read about the story aspects of it, I'm not like super excited about, but I'm willing. You will probably read it first,
Yeah,
and then
I'll be
I'll
there.
hear
I'll
what
be
you
there.
say. And then
I'll be there, and if the podcast hasn't died already, I'll be talking
yeah,
about it on the podcast.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah. So I guess if the podcast is still around for research purposes, I will pick up the episode and
Absolutely.
probably the Superman, because I do love Superman.
I love Superman. I think I did say that Jason Aaron writing Superman. I also like the art for that book or what we've seen of it thus far. It looks like his suit, or at least portions of the Superman costume, are like actual energy. Like his cape
Yeah,
and
right.
gauntlets
Yeah.
and boots almost look like they're
Hmm.
like solar energy. And I think
Yeah.
that's honestly a really cool kind of way to adapt that.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
Batman, I don't like the Batman costume
You
design,
don't?
but I
Okay.
do think that the art is very strong.
Yeah.
I like some of the other stuff that Nick Dragotta has done. So
Okay.
I have faith in that. Kelly Thompson is a tremendous writer. I haven't read a ton of her stuff, but what I have read, I liked quite a bit. But I
Hmm.
don't know that I'm super familiar with Hayden Sherman as an artist. And unfortunately, I hate to be this guy, but I don't read a lot of Wonder Woman.
Same.
I read, I think the most recent Wonder Woman thing that I tried to read was when Scott Snyder actually was doing Dark Knight's Death Metal, which was kind of like a Wonder Woman led crossover that was also a pseudo sequel to Dark Knight's Metal. And
Hmm.
it was too much for me. It was very difficult for me to keep up with that. So
Okay.
yeah,
I see.
it's tough. I don't know. And also Scott Snyder, we both have read most of, if not all, of the new 52 Batman run, right?
Me?
Yeah, I thought
No.
that you were okay. Well, my
Wait.
bad. That
No,
was
I don't think so.
that was like Court of Owls and Death of the
I've not
Family.
read. No,
Death of the
I'm
Family,
not.
sorry. Okay,
I'm not
well,
actually.
my bad.
I'm not as well read as
You
you.
know what they say
You're
about making
crazy.
assumptions. Yeah,
They
no,
make you look
so
stupid.
they do. They make me look really dumb. Cut this. I'm cutting all of this. I'm cutting it out. Um, so Scott Snyder's New 52 Batman and also his detective comic stuff that he did before that, where he did like Batman Black Mirror, a lot of people consider that to be like like modern classics for Batman as a character.
Yes,
And
you've talked about it a lot. Yeah.
I think that after that, his crossover events, and he did Justice League for a little bit. He did the big Dark Knights metal and death metal crossovers.
Mhm.
I he maybe, and I mean, yeah, he has a very big hand in all of this, like Absolute Comics, all in Initiative and whatnot. So he's obviously
Mhm.
a major creative force at DC, but I don't know that I'm super interested in reading like if he's going to do such a drastically different take on Batman for this Absolute line, why not get somebody that hasn't done Batman in the past, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would make sense. Yeah.
No, so that's strange to
Like
me.
like me or you or
Right,
somebody.
yeah, hire me. I would love to do it. And I, although I do worry that if they were like, "Hey man, bring us your like unique take on Batman." And I would be like,
It's
"Guys, guess what?
it's the animated
It's
series.
Batman. It's the animated series, and it's pretty much exclusively that, and I'm
Yeah.
not changing anything."
It's
And
Batman as everybody knows and loves,
yes,
and yeah,
absolutely. And that's just
yeah,
how you got to do it, you know?
yeah, that's
Um,
true.
but yeah, so that's I don't know that I have a ton else. I will be checking these out. I'm interested. I'm intrigued. I like to support, my local comics retailers whenever I can.
Hmm.
So yeah, I'll definitely at least grab the first issues, and I hope that it stays strong after that because currently Marvel Comics have actually recently relaunched their like Ultimate Comics line, and
Oh, I was unaware.
it's really, really strong, actually.
Really?
Jonathan Hickman, who is a lot of people's like messiah for writing Marvel comics nowadays. He just finished a tremendous run on the X-Men for Marvel, but he's doing the Ultimate Spider-Man book, and the premise is
Ooh.
that the premise of the larger Ultimate Universe for Marvel currently is that there is there's a villainous entity, and he's called the Maker, and the Maker is Reed Richards, but from the failed prior Ultimate Universe. Okay,
Uh,
so he's stuck around, and he is effectively grown. It's like if the intellect and ego of regular like 616 Reed Richards was never kept in check. So
mm,
he's grown to almost this mad scientist,
mm,
near omnipotent personality, and this
mm.
new version of the Ultimate Universe is a universe that he effectively robbed of all of its best superheroes so that they could never
Oh,
interfere with his machinations kind of like behind the scenes.
I see.
And then a version of Tony Stark Iron Man learns this, and he's also young. Like Iron Man in this new Ultimate Universe, I think is like in his 20s, like he's like our
Oh,
age or
wow.
something like that.
Hmm.
But he learns of this, and then he makes it his mission to effectively, using the knowledge that he has of how stuff would work in the normal, timeline. He goes in and he kind of reintroduces people to what he would consider their destiny, but then he gives them their option. He's like, if you want to do this, you can. It's effectively, to bring up the Matrix again, it's like you could take the red pill or you could take the blue pill. You could keep living your life exactly as you have been,
Yeah.
or here's this version of yourself from another universe that I'm telling you exists that has done all of these wonderful things. So here you go, Peter Parker. You can either, pretend to just go back to your life as it is, or
Interesting.
here's the
Yeah.
radioactive spider that's going to give you your powers. You can let it bite you. And then of course in the first issue, he lets it bite him, and he becomes Spider-Man. So
That's cool.
so yeah, I think the premise is honestly really solid, and I found it very easy to get into. And I've read I read Ultimate Invasion. I've read, I think, the first issue of the new The Ultimates, which is, like the Avengers, but in the Ultimate Universe.
Yeah.
And I think I've read 3 or 4 issues of Hickman's Ultimate Spider-Man. So it's
Mm,
strong, dude. Like I do like it
cool.
a lot. See, I would
Cool.
recommend all of those. I guess
Hmm.
next point of discussion, The Penguin is coming out soon.
Aha.
You and I are big fans of
Big fan.
what's going on with the. Tell me about the Penguin.
What do you want to know about him? That he's
Yep.
first name Oswald, last name Cobblepot.
Okay.
Um,
Solid.
he's got a pointy nose. Looks like a penguin.
He's a Batman villain.
Right.
He's played most recently by Colin Farrell.
Colin Farrell, that was an amazing cast. in my
It's
opinion. That was a big risk. A lot of people were like, "What's going on here?"
absolutely.
And they knocked it out of the park with the
They
makeup, the
obviously saw
special effect.
something
It's
I did
amazing.
not. Because
Yeah,
yeah, like
yeah.
I cannot tell that that is Colin
It's
Farrell
crazy. It's
anymore.
insane.
It's genuinely terrific.
I
So
do kind of worry though about a TV show adaptation, mainly just due to the budget aspects of it. It seems
yeah,
like TV shows do not necessarily have the same qualities of as feature length films and stuff like that because
I
of,
would agree with
budgetary
that.
reasons.
I think I think something that does give me faith though is that this has been adopted as like an HBO original. So
Yeah.
they have a lot of faith in it, and
They
I
yeah.
imagine that they've also funneled a lot of money
Yeah.
into it.
I do have more hope for it with it being an HBO show because they have very high quality
Absolutely.
television. So
And I guess outside of the costuming, like which I'm sure is very labor intensive and costs a lot of money, it seems to be very much in the world of the Batman, which obviously
Yeah.
that makes sense. It is a spinoff, but um that's a crime story. It's a crime epic ultimately.
hmm
That's kind of how Matt Reeves has
Yeah.
interpreted this universe. So I don't know how many, it's fortunate that we're not getting giant large scale CGI battles
hmm
with lasers being fired off and
Yeah,
whatnot.
that won't be a problem here.
No, definitely not.
Unless
Unless stuff gets really weird at the end of
Yeah.
this show. But yeah, it's coming out. I think mid-September. I'm really excited for it. I'll definitely be
Oh yeah,
watching that week
me
to
too.
week.
hmm
What's the over under on Pattinson showing up?
I don't know. In my opinion, I don't think he's gonna show up in the show. I don't.
I I I have no reason to think that he will, but if they're really trying to bridge the gap, which I think that Matt Reeves has stated that this is effectively like picks up immediately after the end of the Batman, leads
hmm
directly into the Batman Part Two. Well, we've
hmm
still got like 2 years of time, I
Right.
think, until the
hmm
Batman Part Two comes out. So I hope that they found a way to sneak some Battinson in there, because
If
otherwise that's a long time to wait, you
Here's
know.
my prediction. If they do, it's going to be like towards the end of the series, and that's what's going to lead into the Batman Part Two. Is
Yeah.
something happens and he has to show up and do something,
I kind of
and then
hope
yeah,
it would be really neat if they introduced like, a significant villain or
yeah,
character that will show up in the Batman Part 2
that would
in
be
this
cool.
to kind of like, with faith in good faith tell the audience this show matters. Like it's
Yeah,
important that you watch
yeah.
this because it
hmm
does, relate directly to our other material. So
Yep.
yeah.
hmm
Okay, well that's kind of all I had on the Penguin. I guess that
Cool.
means that we should probably head into the main topic of the show, which will be Alien 3, which you just recently watched. Okay, so we kind of briefly touched on this earlier. I think I compared Alien Resurrection to The Matrix, which I think that I should actually maybe amend because I want to say that it came out before The Matrix. So my
Oh,
bad. My,
really?
my bad, everybody. It came out, I think, 2 years
Wow.
beforehand. Yeah, who would have
He
thought?
got
Who would
it
have thought?
wrong.
But yeah, so Daniel, your experience with the Alien franchise, you said that you'd seen Aliens, or sorry, you've seen Alien, you've seen
Yes.
Aliens, but don't remember a ton about it, and you've
Yeah,
never
not
seen
yeah,
Alien 3,
right.
and that you and I are both big fans of Prometheus.
Yes.
I like that
Uh,
movie a lot,
it's a
and
hot
you've
take.
seen Alien Covenant as well,
Yes,
yeah.
I've seen Alien Covenant too. I didn't like it as much as Prometheus, but I still enjoyed it.
Agreed,
So
agreed.
so
I have
yeah
my own gripes about that movie, but I do like it on the whole. And maybe
yeah
one day if we ever do like a full retrospective, we can kind of talk about those. But I guess
yeah.
today the main topic, in light of Alien Romulus's recent release and kind of like, pretty solid success both critically and
Mhm.
commercially. You had seen Alien 3, and I thought that that would be a really good topic of discussion because it's such a kind of like interesting timepiece in this franchise, and I think in kind of like Hollywood filmmaking as a whole. So
Probably yeah.
for those of y'all that are not familiar, for the uninitiated, if you
Yeah.
will, Alien 3 is the third Alien feature film. It was released in 1982. It's just under 2 hours, and it was directed by David Fincher. It's David Fincher's
You would think.
real debut. Um,
Amazing.
yeah,
Alien movie with David Fincher. That has to be like
you
the
would think
best
that
movie
that would
ever
be,
made.
yeah, absolutely. Kind of like I've always said that if David Fincher did a Batman movie, it would be the best Batman.
Yeah,
Even though I
right.
think we might have gotten that with the Batman,
Mhm.
since that movie's pretty much just seven. But yeah, like
Yeah.
David Fincher, tremendous of talent, but this was his directorial debut. Um, he had done some work in, I think, some second unit stuff, maybe on some things for Lucasfilm, as well as several commercials and music videos. He had worked with
Mhm.
Madonna. So the guy had a rep in the industry
Mhm.
for being dependable and good at what he did, but he had not kind of, made the jump into feature filmmaking yet.
Yeah,
And Alien 3 was a tremendously troubled production. I want to say that Aliens came out in like 86.
I
So
think that's correct.
for Alien 3 to then come out in 92, like that's a really long wait to follow up one of
Yeah,
the most successful films that Fox had put out at that point in time.
yeah.
And the gist of it was really that creatively, they could not come to an agreement on what this movie was going to look like. So
Mhm.
there were several scripts and drafts kind of written. And I think that the product that we ended up with was an amalgamation of all of the ideas from these various attempts at kind of cracking the
That
story.
seems apparent
Hey,
when
I
watching.
would 100% agree. And then the strangest thing of all is that David Fincher, who we now know and respect tremendously as a filmmaker,
Yeah.
um, was hired effectively as yeah, like a gun for hire. Like he was just
Yeah.
going to show up and just do what he was told to do, and just
Mhm.
push the thing out. But it turns
Yeah.
out David Fincher, in true David Fincher fashion, is a perfectionist. He wants the best out of his features, and he has a very specific way of doing things. Also important to note, and I think this is evident in the movie too. David Fincher is an Alien guy. He seems to prefer Alien to Aliens. He seems to like that Ridley Scott kind of method of filmmaking. He liked
Mhm.
the slow tension building. And
Yeah.
I think honestly, and you can tell me if I'm wrong in a second, although I think you and I both like this a fair amount. If let's say Aliens did not come out when it came out, okay? Let's
Mhm.
say that somehow David Fincher was given the opportunity to make a sequel to the original Alien.
Yeah.
Like this works perfectly for that, I think. And
Yeah. I've not thought about that before, and I
you
think I would have
can't
to agree with you
you
on
can't go
that.
back, you can't change time. I understand that. But Aliens is such a different beast. Like that's why you have two camps. Aliens is a sci-fi action film with horror elements,
Yeah. Yep.
whereas Alien is a dark, brooding, very slow burn,
Yeah.
like terrific science fiction horror. Like it's a true
Yeah. Yep.
horror film. It's
Yep.
effectively a slasher in space, but it's elevated
Absolutely.
by the execution. So I think that Alien 3 is a very obvious love letter to that original Alien movie. And I
Mhm.
don't think that it takes many cues from Aliens.
I would agree with that probably. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Because, but for me, I think I would agree it is a love letter to Alien, but since we already have Alien, I feel like that's why it's Alien 3 is not as interesting. It's because it's like, oh, I've kind of seen this before, and like there's
yeah,
not as much intrigue because we know like what the xenomorph is and like what it does. And
absolutely.
like there is a bit of a difference with this one because it comes from a dog and stuff like that. And like biologically it looks different, but like
Yeah.
I feel like we don't really see all that much of it really in the movie. Like I
No.
wanted to see like long shots of it. Like there I guess there is, but there's a lot of it is during action sequences where it's like moving very fast and like there's also like some animation in it too. Like I just
Yeah.
that's like that's it's a product of its time. I'm not going to critique that or anything, but it I- it does not have that sense of mystery and stuff that Alien did because we've already been there before, and then that's why I think it felt slower for me when watching it because yeah, we kind of
I,
knew what was going on.
I think I would probably agree with that. I will say a point of difference between you and I that I just now picked up on. You said the alien came from a dog in the version that you watched.
Wait, what? What is there a different version or something?
So there are two versions of this movie. There is the
Oh
original
my
1992
gosh.
theatrical release, and then there is the assembly cut, which was meant to be the David Fincher director's cut. But David Fincher has disowned this movie. He wants nothing to do with it. He feels that his vision was severely compromised. So he effectively had, my understanding is that he had like a long time kind of like production assistant that he was like, hey, I want you to handle this kind of on my behalf. So in 2003-ish, there was the assembly cut that was released. And there are, I wouldn't say super big differences, but it is a more methodical, I think, obviously David Fincher film. One of the big differences is
Yeah.
that the alien in that is spawned from an ox rather than a dog. So
Ah.
so its initial appearance, I think, is meant to be like I think you miss that section in between where it is like smaller and fast moving
Mhm.
because it wouldn't have that because it was
Yeah.
spawned from an ox as opposed to a dog.
Right.
Um,
Okay.
and then there is a very long and drawn out, pretty horrific autopsy sequence where they cut Newt's dead the girl that
Oh,
was in the spacecraft
I
with
saw.
Ripley from the end of Alien.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so maybe that was in your version as well.
That
I
was
haven't.
in my version,
Okay,
and
that
that
was
was
tough to
interesting.
get through. I'm gonna be
Yeah, that
real with you.
was definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah, that
that
was
was.
like, oh my gosh,
Yeah,
like,
that made me very uncomfortable. And
oh,
I guess that's the biggest thing to take away from this. I don't think that this has anything to do with David Fincher or like his choice. This is probably the, consistent studio meddling in several different iterations of
yeah.
a story. But they kill off two of the main characters from Aliens within the first 5 minutes of this movie. And they do so in horrifically gruesome ways.
Yeah,
Like
right.
it's a really, this movie is a downer. Like, and I think that it knows that it is, and it plays on that. And you mentioned that Alien 3 is not as exciting as the original Alien because it's treading a lot of the same ground. I would agree
Yeah.
with you, but I think that something that this movie does very well that I don't really hear a lot of people talk about is that even though you get quite little alien action for probably the first half of this movie,
Hmm.
um, I think that most of the fear comes not from the alien creature, the xenomorph, but from Ripley being the one female on a planet that is a prison
Okay,
colony.
yeah, yeah. I would
And
agree with, yeah.
I think that's really interesting. I kind of find
Yeah.
it neat that in the absence of the alien as the predator, as the stalker, as the
Mhm.
source of your terror, they drop Ripley into such an unforgiving, hostile environment,
Mhm.
and that kind of takes the place of the fear factor for the better part of this film.
I think what they should have done is have David Fincher direct a movie about a lady in the future being marooned on an all-man planet. I think
Yeah,
that's what should, and
no, you're
get
absolutely
rid of
right.
the alien aspect of it,
Yeah.
maybe.
Well, some people do say that this suffers from the Godfather 3 syndrome of that, like if it was a different franchise, people would look
Yeah,
better on it because it was
yeah,
following up these two kind of like giant features.
yeah.
And I would probably agree with that. But if the listener has not already figured out, you and I like this movie. We like this movie a fair amount. I like
Mhm.
it definitely. Like if you go to the Rotten Tomatoes for this, which I pulled up actually, but before we got on here, it has a 44% critic rating and a 46% audience
Oh,
score.
really? I
Like
didn't realize it'd be that
those are
bad.
really
Oh,
negative. And then the
yeah.
Metacritic for it is sitting at a 59 for the critics, but for users,
Mm.
it's at a 7.8. I think I'm much closer to that, like
Yeah,
7.5 range.
I would, yeah,
That's kind of
same.
what I would give it out of 10.
Yeah.
And I feel strong about that. I think that it has a lot going for it. You mentioned that some of the animatronic work and the compositing doesn't hold up super well. I would agree, but from the special features, featurette type stuff that I looked at, I think there was a lot of really good work that was done that was then due to time constraints or whatnot, like hastily kind of like slapped together. But I
Right.
I would say in general the design and the execution of the xenomorph in this is strong. Like I
Yeah,
like
yeah,
it, but I
no,
do
no
still
hate
find
to
it
the
quite
design of it.
intimidating.
Yeah. Hmm.
Um,
I would agree.
I like. Okay, you know what? Spoilers from here on out. I realize that this movie came out 30 years ago or whatever, but I feel like there could be someone out there that would still be bothered by it. I quite like that they kill Ripley in this. I think that was a
See,
really strong choice.
right. That's why I asked you the question, like, hey, was this intended to be like the capstone of this franchise? Because it would make a lot more sense, and I feel like I would like the movie a lot more knowing that that's what they had in mind.
Yeah.
And
And as I told you, which is I guess not necessarily the answer that you were hoping for, but in earlier versions of the script for this, the movie had been reoriented to put Sigourney Weaver in kind of a supporting cast role and to make Michael Bihn's character Hicks from Aliens the main character. But
mm-hmm.
then over 5, 6, 7 years or whatever it take to kind of mold this into what we
Yeah.
eventually got, the script was changed around to not only remove those other characters entirely,
Mm-hmm.
but to bring Ripley back to the forefront. Which I mean, I guess you watch Alien for Ripley, but I enjoy the world and its ideas, I think, more than I
Same.
enjoy the character. So
Right.
when Sigourney Weaver was finally, when she signed on and gave her approval, it was with the caveat, I need to die in this film. Like
Mm-hmm.
you have to kill the Ellen Ripley character.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're gonna do it, I think that having her be impregnated with and gestating a queen xenomorph, and then her choose very deliberately to take her own life as a sacrifice is probably the
Mm-hmm.
best way to do so. Like I
Like,
thought that was
yeah.
executed very well.
Yes. I agree with that. Yeah. Definitely.
Um, I like the set design. Like I think that the atmosphere is very oppressive, and I like that it's a
I
mining colony. Like I think that's a
Yes.
really neat place to kind of like stick this movie.
Those were like my favorite aspects of this movie was visually how it was, and like how like you said, that my favorite part of the Alien franchise is like the universe that it exists in, and like the Weyland Corporation and all that stuff. And
Yeah,
I think we in this movie we really got a slice of it with like the company prison that we were at and the men that were at it and stuff like that. I really liked, like the sort of religious cult kind of that they're
yeah,
involved in and those sorts of aspects of it. And I
yeah,
mean, and visual, like this, the set pieces, like as you said, and the way things look, and it really carries that early 90s grungy vibe, I think. And I really, I'm a sucker for that kind of dark, kind of
yeah,
angsty looking stuff. And yeah, I think that's really where the David Fincher part kind of came through. I mean, obviously in the story with how like the tension growing and stuff like that was David Fincher-esque and stuff like that. But I think visually with how it was shot and how it looked, that he really came through to me on that. So yeah, those are my favorite parts of the movie.
I
Yeah,
would 100% agree, and it's strange to me that yeah, like people must have just been very disappointed at the time. And
yeah,
honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if the immediate, killing of Hicks and Newt. I mean, Newt's like a 9-year-old girl or whatever,
right.
like
Yeah,
so it wouldn't
it's
surprise
kind
me
of
if
brutal.
people were so excited after Aliens and then they wait, X number of years for this, and then they immediately kill some of your
Oh,
favorite
we get to
characters.
see Newt and stuff.
Right, yeah. Oh, wait, she drowned
And
in a
then
cryopod? Oh my God, that's
and then they
horrible.
freaking crack her chest open to look for the
For
alien.
yeah, the alien
Yeah.
eggs. Yeah, it's that's tough. I don't know. I mean, you and I were not alive when Aliens came out. I've watched all of these movies. Like I was able to watch them in succession relatively quickly. And I guess as much as I enjoyed Aliens, it's not my favorite of the Alien movies. I do prefer that kind of like methodical, slow burn style of filmmaking.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I guess I was never so concerned because I kind of view Alien and the universe that this exists in with this like capitalist oppression from
Yeah.
the Weyland Yutani Corporation, and it's like it's sci-fi, but not in the way that like, oh, look at this beautiful utopic future that we've developed for ourselves.
Yeah.
It's like the worst possible version of
It's
events have occurred.
dystopian.
Yeah, it's
It's like our
dystopian.
timeline.
It does genuinely seem like our timeline. It's like interstellar travel has been subsidized entirely by like greedy capitalist
Yeah,
corporations,
yeah,
and
yeah,
they're willing to destroy entire colonies like they did in Aliens just for
yeah.
the sake of potentially using the aliens as bioweapons.
Hmm. Yeah.
Ridiculous, but it seems possible. So
Yeah, it's grounded in realistic kind of
yeah,
like
which is crazy to say,
realistic
but it,
human tendency.
it really is, which I guess is why, even though it blows that Newt and Hicks are killed, I'm like, this is an unforgiving world,
Yeah.
like this is a very
This
difficult. No good deed goes unpunished, right? You know,
Right, yeah. Mhm.
there can be no good happenings in the Alien universe.
Yeah. Hmm.
So I
Yeah. I
guess,
mean,
do you have other kind of thoughts or things that you'd like to suggest for this movie?
um, not particularly. I mean, we already talked about the visual aspects of it and stuff like that. I think it took a little bit to get where it was going, which
Yeah,
we've talked about. It's a slow burn, and I just think it took too long. I think if it was a little bit tighter, it would be kind of it would be better, I
I
think.
would
But
agree.
I'm
It would
not
flow better.
I'm not an expert on how to fix movies, so I can't say, you know, particularly how to. It's just so it's well, I don't know. Maybe I don't think I have anything more to say about it, I guess.
Yeah,
I'll just yeah.
I would agree with that. And I think I'm at a similar point. Like, this is a strong movie. I like it quite a bit. We've kind of both given our. Should we develop a rating system? Should it just be like
We
you should
could
watch it or you shouldn't watch it? I feel like that's a pretty good option.
I
Um,
guess
so
yeah.
so my formal recommendation. I mean, it doesn't leave a lot of room for interpretation, but that's what our whole discussion about it was. You know, like that was the point of talking about it. So
Yeah.
if I were to give my formal recommendation, Alien 3 is worth watching. I think
I
it's a
think
really
it's
strong
yeah,
outing, and I think it deserves to be reevaluated.
I agree. Don't hate
Um,
on it so much.
no,
People
people be hating, dude.
people
Everybody
do be
wants to be
hating.
Silky Johnson from that Dave Chappelle skit. Hey. Okay, well, so of the Alien, I guess we could finish our topic segment with this. Of the Alien movies you've seen, what are your rankings?
Don't make me do this.
I'm making you do it. I'm
You
making
can't
you do
put
it, and then I'm going to put it on
if
the internet so that
if
you can
this
never
yeah,
take it
if
back.
this goes anywhere, they're gonna come for me. The Redditors, do you know what this is gonna do to them?
They're going to be
Okay.
very unhappy. You know how much
This
I sacrifice.
is um I could do a really hot take, but I'm probably
I
not
can.
going
Do
to.
you want me to go first
Yeah, you go
with that
first.
easy for you? Okay, brother, you got to talk about hot takes. My number one is Prometheus. So
Oh!
Prometheus. Whoa.
He did it.
Yeah,
He actually
I did
did
it. I did it. And I've thought about that a lot, but every time I rewatch that movie, I find something else to like in it. And I find that a lot of people's gripes are the things that initially took them out of the film, or again, stuff that I'm not super concerned with. I think because I
it.
so dearly like the Alien universe at large.
Hmm.
I also saw the movie, being frank here, when I was relatively young.
Hmm.
And I think that it
It's
very
got a
much
soft spot.
influenced kind of my interpretation
Yeah.
of film as like a literary work almost.
Right.
Like movies can present and you know connect you with ideas that you might not have otherwise considered.
Hmm.
And I was just blown away by that. So my number one is Prometheus.
Hmm.
Okay. Hot take number two, and this one's probably recency bias, but boy, is it going to upset people. Alien Romulus. You are still yet to see
Ooh.
that,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
Romulus is incredible. I have a very lengthy letterbox review that I think I sent to you. It is
Yes.
it is
Eloquently
all of the
written.
best parts of your other Alien features, but connected by one singular vision. So you never feel like there's any compromise. Like it seems like
Hmm.
Fede Alvarez really had it, total control of that feature from start to finish, and then he adds his own disgusting flair to the last 15 minutes of it, and it's terrific. So for me,
Cool.
we're going Prometheus, Romulus, original Alien, and incredible. I can't speak highly enough about it.
Hmm. Of
And these are obviously subjective rankings. If I was talking about
course.
kind of impact of cinema, obviously Alien would be at the top, but this is just my personal preference. So then we're gonna
Yes.
go Alien, Aliens, and all of these are like eight out of 10, 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10. Like all of these
Yes.
are like very strong.
Cool.
After that, I'm probably going Alien 3, Alien Covenant, which
Really?
makes it sound
Okay.
like it's worse than it is. I have one main gripe with Covenant, which is that it fails to be a sequel to Prometheus. It kind
Mm.
of throws out most of the pertinent ideas from Prometheus in favor of being a more by the numbers alien flick.
Yeah.
And
Right. You're
I
right.
that
You're
didn't
right.
set
You're
right
right.
with me. but it's still strong. So yeah,
Yeah.
then Alien 3, Covenant, Alien Resurrection is really I watched that again a few weeks ago, and it is a tough watch.
I'm gonna
I'm
have to
not
watch
thrilled
that.
with it. Yeah,
I'm
I
really
you should,
intrigued.
I think, just for like the intrigue, but it's
Yeah.
not great. I would not if on our rating scale we either recommend it or we
It
don't. I would not recommend that people watch
it's
that.
so interesting because I thought the plot of Alien 3 was going to be Alien Resurrection because I've heard people talk about Resurrection. I haven't People don't like 3. I heard not heard about the plot of Alien 3 honestly because not much goes on. I mean, stuff
Yeah,
does go
there's not a
on,
lot of plot to
but
discuss.
there's like the alien human hybrid
Yep.
in Resurrection, which seems like super interesting to me.
Oh, brother.
So,
Well, you're gonna be let down. I'm sorry to say that.
dadgummit, dadgummit.
It's barely in the movie, and I think it's the design itself is I think quite poor, and it does not. Yeah, you
I've
know
seen
what?
pictures of it. I don't I kind of I don't know. I'll have to see it in the movie to
I'll tell you
make a
this.
full formed opinion.
I'll tell you this. Yeah, you should watch the movie because you and I are fans of this, right?
Yes.
So we're not the average moviegoer, but I'll tell you this: the last 15 minutes of Alien Romulus does all of the like thematic elements and interesting concepts of Alien Resurrection better than the whole film Alien Resurrection did.
I'll
Which
hold you
is
to
crazy
that.
to say, but I think that's again why I like Romulus so much. So yeah,
Okay. All right.
but yeah, those are my rankings. So
What about
this
the
now
Alien
gives you
versus
your own.
Predator movies? Where do those
Oh,
go on the list?
I if I'm gonna loop them in, the first Alien versus Predator is probably about as good as Alien Covenant is. Like
Okay.
its main failure to me is that it does not follow any of the regular Alien continuity. Like it has to
Hmm.
kind of exist in its own universe because otherwise it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Which is fine, I guess, but you
Yeah.
would want that to be naturally connected to your other features. Um, and then two, and this is kind of a big one, is it's PG-13, and I don't think that any Alien or Predator movie should be PG-13. I think we've really
No.
lost it if that's where you go with
We
the.
need
We do, yeah,
there
and
needs to
then
be some gratuity. There needs to be some blood or at least
yeah,
yeah, there's
some
got to
blood
be
and some
something
gore or
gruesome.
stuff that like makes you uncomfortable. Like that's I think what
Yeah.
I want out of my Alien movies. And then
Absolutely.
Alien versus Predator Requiem. A lot of people mark it as like objectively the worst thing to ever come out of that franchise. That one, so as you know, because you know me for several years, I love the Friday the 13th franchise. It might be
Yes,
my
you
favorite
do.
franchise in film, not because it's great, but because it just like it hits that very specific niche for me. And I think
Hmm.
Alien versus Predator Requiem is like a perfect dumb slasher. Its
Yeah.
biggest fault, and it is rated R, so it does improve on the other Alien versus
Yeah.
Predator in my mind. Its biggest fault is that for some reason, I don't know if it was a color grading or a lighting thing. The movie is dark, and I don't mean dark like thematically or whatever. Although it
Right.
does have, I'm pretty sure a pregnant woman at one point gets chest bursted in it. So
Oh, dang.
it's not great. I mean, it's got some bad stuff in there, but it's so dark you at times cannot see what's happening on the
That's
screen.
awesome.
Like I have to crank the
They're like,
brightness on my television.
they're like editing the movie and like, oh, this thing's really bad. Just make it dark.
Yeah,
Just make it dark. They
yeah,
can't see
just
it.
make
They
it dark.
don't
They can't
don't
see.
see
Yeah, exactly. They're like
it.
whatever they imagine is happening is going to be better than what's happening.
Yeah.
So yeah. AVP comparable to Covenant, I think.
Okay.
And then Alien versus Predator Requiem bottom of the list. So yeah,
Okay.
there
All
you
right.
go. Those are my
Okay.
official rankings.
Since you were so brave, I don't know if I was going to be this brave had you not been this brave, but I think I will also put Prometheus at the top of my list because I think,
Woo!
yeah, everybody's going to think that we're stupid now,
Yeah,
but
which
it's
we are
okay.
both of those things.
Yeah, we are. But I love that movie. Like I think it's so incredibly interesting, the ideas that it puts forth, and it's just yeah, I love everything about that movie. It's awesome. And then Alien, the original Alien would probably again be my number two. I guess I guess a I'm torn between Aliens and Alien Covenant mainly because I can't remember Aliens all
That is
that
tough. I really
much.
put you in a bad position here. That's on
No,
me.
I mean I do I think I would just give respect to Aliens and put it at number 3, and then put
Okay.
Alien Covenant, and then put Alien 3 at the bottom.
That's
Because
reasonable.
that's all I've
I
seen
think
so
that's
far.
reasonable.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
we'll see.
No, okay, well, those are solid rankings, and those are kind of our thoughts on this. I guess if again, if the podcast doesn't crash and burn, and you eventually see, or maybe when I think there's going to be a sequel to Romulus, it seems like it's performing very well. So perhaps
Yeah.
whenever that comes out, if we're still doing this, we can do a Alien Romulus and then whatever the sequel is double feature, and we can talk about both.
Heck yeah,
Um,
man.
But yeah, so those are our thoughts on Alien 3 and kind of the Alien franchise as a whole. Which leads us to our next segment, which is going to cap us off this evening. But what's on your nightstand? What are you currently reading, watching, playing? Like what do you want to talk about,
Uh,
if anything?
what am I? I'm finishing up The Sopranos, I guess.
Woo! Let's go.
After all this time.
Where are you at? Are you in the final season?
I am in the final season, and Tony has woken up from his coma. So
Okay.
yeah,
Spoilers, I
spoiler.
guess. Yeah,
Spoiler.
that's another show
But-
that's so old now. You can't even think. Although for some reason it really came back, I think, during COVID. Like
Yeah.
people began being like, oh well, what am I going to do with all my free time?
Mhm.
Watch The Sopranos.
Watch this.
come on.
Yes, absolutely.
So okay.
Yeah,
solid.
great show. Great show. It's excellent. Everything, the cast, the
Mhm.
writing is, yeah, it's amazing. It's
I would
fantastic.
completely agree. It's insane how well it showed, or
Yeah.
how well it stands up, especially
Oh,
for
yeah.
like modern day prestige television. I
Absolutely,
think
yeah.
what I like so much about The Sopranos is that it is like premium format TV,
Mhm.
but also it was still in that era of television where it's like you might get like 20 episodes in a season or something like that.
Yeah.
Like it's insane,
Mhm.
that I want to say there's like 6 seasons, and maybe season 6 is like part A and part B.
Yeah, it's kind of
But
split up.
you get so much content, so it's kind of a bad
Mhm.
word, but yeah, you get so much of that, but even the worst episodes are still like very solid,
I know.
So it's just like it's so much of a good thing, and they don't
Eh,
do that anymore. Nowadays you have a premium television series and it's 8 1-hour episodes, and that's about
Mhm.
it.
And honestly, The Sopranos is really funny a lot of times. It's like
super funny.
amazing.
Yeah,
Like one
absolutely.
minute I'll be like laughing at like a joke Paulie said, and the next minute I'm like, oh, what did I just watch?
Yeah,
Oh
well,
god.
oh geez. Yeah, I completely agree.
It's yeah, it's unreplicable, honestly, what
No,
they were
it
able to
hasn't
accomplish.
it hasn't been done the same since. I think Bad
Breaking
probably
Bad I
got very
finished recently
close.
as well, and
Okay.
it's phenomenal.
Yeah.
It's so interesting. I had watched the pilot to Breaking Bad, I don't know how many times, and I thought to myself, this is not a show I want to watch. But if somebody had just told me, this is spoiler alert, okay?
Yeah.
If somebody had just told me that Walter's cancer goes away and he is still a meth lord guy,
Yeah.
that would have been like, oh, okay. I would have been way more
100%.
apt
Yeah.
to watch the rest of
Absolutely.
it. So yeah.
No, I guess I had the benefit of my family having watched it, and I kind of caught,
Mhm.
like snippets every now and then. I'm like, this seems like something that I would enjoy. So then I
Yeah.
kind of marathon myself. But yeah,
It's good. And
it's terrific.
kind of ground. I mean, I don't want to act like I'm TV show expert, but I think it's kind of groundbreaking. Just from a writing standpoint, I think they really took some risks with that show, and it paid off big
Definitely.
time.
And it keeps you
Yeah.
engaged throughout for that reason.
Absolutely,
Like The
yeah.
Sopranos uses like surrealism in a way that I don't know that many television series
I
have
know,
today, which is
yes.
insane because it's just a mob show
It's a
about
mob show.
about a depressed Don,
Yeah.
It's awesome.
It's fantastic. Yeah. Mhm.
Okay, well, we're getting relatively close to time, so I guess for what I'm talking, well, did you have other stuff you wanted to
No, you do
discuss on
yours.
that?
You do
Okay.
yours.
I have been waiting for an opportunity to talk about this because I'm a big dumb nerd, and because our podcast is movies, comics, television, games, really just
Yeah.
entertainment media as a whole. But I
Mhm.
recently spent more money than I maybe should have, although I think it was money well spent on the full-sized David Mazzucchelli's Batman Year One Artist Edition.
Oh yes.
And I'm almost certainly
showed
mispronouncing
me
his
that.
last name. So
It's okay.
Mr. David, if you ever listen to this, I do sincerely apologize.
It's
But
gonna kill you.
Batman Year One, written by Frank Miller, drawn
Phenomenal.
by David Mazzucchelli, originally published as a miniseries and then put out in a premium format trade as a collected volume. I feel like everybody that ever works on Batman is like, oh, Batman Year One was my real kind of, like impetus. It was my influence.
Yeah.
That's why I made
Yeah.
this the way I did. So yeah, I can't say enough good stuff about it, but I am also, it's not enough people have done that already. I don't need to tell you that Batman Year One is great. But what I didn't know about these artist editions, because I've never owned one, at least not like this before, it appears to be full-size printing reproductions of the original art as it existed on the page that it was drawn on. And you know that this is back before digital art existed, so it was going to be your, presumably a 11 by 17 size Bristol board or some sort of comparable, grained paper.
Right.
So the book is the size of my torso. It's
huge.
Tremendous. It's huge and it's incredible. Like the sheer level of detail that you get, and it's entirely in black and white. And actually, David Mazzucchelli has this beautiful introduction where he talks about how his wife had done the colors on the original Year One, and he's like, look, I drew this, with my wife as my partner. Like we did that together. So even though you're seeing my art, technically the way that I intended for you to view this is as it's regularly printed with the full color. So I thought that was just a really nice way. I don't know. It's nice when spouses are
that's cool.
So I think that that's really cool because that was some trivia that I did not have. But yeah, as an artist myself and as somebody that deeply enjoys graphic narrative, I mean, it's incredible. And and it is the full book as it existed, but again, you're in the size format that you don't normally get. It has this very premium feel to it. And it's almost like it's like getting to reread Year One, for the first time again. And you're picking up on and seeing things that you probably didn't see originally because they were either masked or they were changed in a capacity by the final printing, because obviously what you have drawn on the page never is translated 100% in like the final print. There's always going to be some level of fidelity that is lost there. So yeah, man, I can't speak highly enough of it. It would be a great gift, I think, to get a person for if they're a nerd like we are, for a graduation, for a wedding, for whatever, like you slip.
How much was it? How much was it?
I want to say that it was relatively close to like 150. So it's up there. I mean, it's not.
It is huge though. Like he's not joking when he says it's big.
I'm not I don't think that I am a small person by any means, and it is the full size of my torso.
It's crazy. A tall book.
I've just been I've been working on my comic. I kind of keep it over here because I can't put it on a bookshelf, so I just kind of have it next to me, and every now and then I'm like, I remember a page from Year One that has like this panel layout. Let's pull it up in this and kind of see what was going on there, and I can view the artistry. Something that I've always liked about comic art is this idea that once you finally see the artwork on the page, you can't really decipher how it was drawn. Okay, so there's a level of mystique. I mean, that it was drawn with somebody's hands, with their innate talent.
That's what
you think. You think that's true. but yeah, like I think that with painting, oftentimes like you see brushstrokes, right?
Yeah.
And you can kind of reverse engineer in your head, this is the format and methodology that was used to kind of paint this.
Right.
With published art like this, I really don't think that you can do that, which is why it's so fun for me to peel back the layers and look at this original inked artwork and be like,
I thought about it that way before.
Yeah,
I'm not a drawer, so I would never thought about that.
and I am, and I try to be, and I want to continue to get better. So it's exciting. But yeah, that's kind of all I've got to say about that. I have a lot of other comic books on my nightstand, but that's the main thing that I thought was worth bringing up at this point in time. So yeah, awesome. Do you have any final thoughts? Anything else you want to throw out there? No, awesome, incredible. All right, everybody. I'm Andrew Paxson. This has been the Gutter Run Podcast, your hopefully weekly source for comic book and entertainment media news. Daniel, thank you so much for coming on and talking to me. Man.
Thanks for having me.